You won't believe what happened when an HOA Karen illegally towed my car from my own driveway. She thought she had the power, until I rolled up with a literal 25-ton military tank. Her face went white. This is the ultimate revenge story you need to hear. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this gets insane. The HOA board, they're in full panic mode. Watch until the end to see what happens when she calls the cops on a tank. What's up, neighbor? Wars HQ family. Welcome back to the channel, where we expose the worst neighbors, the most insane HOA horror stories, and the epic revenge that follows. I'm your host, and today's story is legendary. Before we dive in, if you're new here, smash that subscribe button and ring that notification bell, because we post the craziest neighbor revenge stories 3 times a week. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, drop a comment below with your story. We might feature it in an upcoming video. Today, we're talking about military vehicles, illegal towing, and an HOA president who learned the hard way that you don't mess with a veteran who knows his rights. This story comes from Reddit, and folks, this is pure gold. Let's get into it. So, our story begins with Marcus, a 35-year-old Iraq War veteran who recently made the move to a quiet suburban neighborhood. He purchased a beautiful 3-bedroom home with a 2-car driveway, thinking he was finally retiring to a peaceful life. But there was one thing. That would be Carol. Carol Henderson, the HOA president. And let me tell you, Carol took her position of power more seriously than a 4-star general. And Carol was a woman in her late 50s, so she was rocking a constant pantsuit like she was campaigning for office. And she had a clipboard. Always. Whenever she went. I mean, where was she? Ever this woman even carried a waterproof clipboard on her morning walk. Special topic for a special woman. Special woman. Yeah. Special, special, special. Marcus had a classic 1967 Ford Mustang that he was restoring for years. It was his pride and joy. Cherry red with chrome trim and just absolutely gorgeous. However, here's the part nobody else seems to know he had not quite finished. The engine, and would sometimes leave it sitting in the driveway for a few days without moving it. That's when Carol struck. One day Marcus goes outside with his cup of coffee to start tinkering with his Mustang, and it's gone. Just gone. The driveway's empty. Marcus looks around like, did I sleepwalk and move my car to the neighbor's house? Then he sees a bright yellow ticket stuck to his mailbox with some sort of adhesive. Violation of HOA bylaws, Section 7, 3, 2. Inoperable vehicle. Vehicle towed to impound lot. Retrieval fee. $850. Marcus is absolutely enraged. He immediately goes to retrieve the HOA bylaws because, unlike most of the other homeowners in the neighborhood, Marcus actually bothered reading them and realizes that Section 732 says that inoperable vehicles have to be removed from the driveway within 14 consecutive days. My Mustang had been there for 9 days. His prized vehicle had been sitting there for 9 days, and he gets ticketed for it, even though it's been there for fewer days than the bylaw allows. Marcus storms over to Carol's house, by the way, where she lives in the biggest house on the block and maintains a perfectly manicured lawn that gets more loving attention than most kids. Ever do Marcus bangs on Carol's door? Carol, you had my car towed. Yes, Marcus, I did. She said with one of those fake smiles, a smile where you know someone is taking pleasure in your pain. It was violating HOA regulations, Carol said with that same smile. It had been there for 9 days, Marcus said to make one last attempt to defend his prized Mustang. The bylaw says 14, said with justifiable aggravation. Will Marcus, the car appeared to be inoperable, Carol said with her smile widening. It's just a classic car I'm restoring. The HOA bylaws don't say anything about restoring cars. She said as if she's been there and done that. It's more fun to make fun of HOAs than to make HOAs make fun of me, she said. As if she's been to school for wicked witches and wicked stepmothers, the bylaws don't say anything for restoration. Marcus said to give one last attempt to nail this fact into this weirdo's brain, then file an appeal. She said with even wider smiling, as if she's been to school for wicked witches and wicked stepmothers 11 weeks. She said to make one last jab 11 weeks. Marcus took a deep breath now. This guy dealt with life-and-death situations in Iraq. He's got patience. Carol, I want you to reimburse me for the towing fee. That's not going to happen. You violated the rules. I didn't violate anything. You're abusing your position. Well, this is where Carol makes her biggest mistake of her life. She gets right in his face and says, "You know what, Marcus? Maybe this neighborhood isn't the right fit for you. We have standards here." "Oh, no, 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 no. Carol, you goaded the bear." Wait, no. You goaded a veteran who happens to have access to military equipment. The last guy nodded slowly and said, "Standards. Got it. Thanks for clarifying that, Carol." He walked back to his car and drove away, leaving Carol to go back inside and possibly enjoy her victory with a nice chilled glass of wine. She had no idea what she'd started. Now, here comes the important part of the story. Marcus military. Background. You see, Marcus wasn't your average veteran. He was a man of connections. He was part of a veterans group who rebuilt old military machines. Tanks, APCs, transport trucks, you name it. One of his mates, his guy named Jake, happened to complete the rebuilding of his 1952 M47 Patton tank. That's a whopper. 25 tons of American steel. Fully functional. Roadworthy in almost all states. You're actually able to drive a decommissioned tank down the road so long as it's equipped with rubber tread and the cannons removed. Marcus calls his guy. "Hey man, remember the favor I'm due?" "Yes, from when you helped me fix the transmission of your car?" "Well, I'm borrowing your Patton now." There's a pause. "You mean the tank? The tank? What for?" "Just this weekend?" There's another pause. "What did your HOA do?" Marcus gives him the whole story about the HOA incident. Now this guy named Jake starts laughing back at his ass. "Oh man, I'm not only letting you borrow the tank. I'm driving it to your location myself. I gotta see this crap go down." Now, here comes the research factor of the story. Marcus did his due diligence. He checked the city codes about this matter. State codes, federal codes. There wasn't anything mentioned about military equipment in his HOA regulations at all. There's a part about boats, RVs, or commercial trucks, even trailers, but not a word about tanks. It also goes on in the HOA bylaws that residents are allowed to have guests who have vehicles stay for a maximum of 72 hours without restriction. Marcus has found his loophole, and it's 25 tons of pure loophole. He also does one more thing. He installs security cameras. 4 of them, on every angle of his property, because he knows Carol is going to go completely crazy, and he wants to capture every moment of it. It's Friday afternoon. Marcus has the day off from work. He's in his garage waiting. He has his phone out to record. He's even made popcorn. This is about to be happier than Netflix. About 2 o'clock, Marcus hears it. The rumbling of a diesel engine, but not just any diesel engine. It's the 810 horsepower Continental AV17905B diesel engine. It's the tank's engine. Carol's neighbors start popping out of their front doors. Kids start pointing. Ow. One guy drops his garden hose. Mrs. Peterson from 3 doors down literally gasps so hard Marcus can hear her from inside his garage. And here comes the M47 Patton, rolling down Maple Street at exactly 15 miles per hour, exactly within speed limit. Jake is shouting from inside the tank. Jake is riding in the commander's station inside the turret, wearing his best pair of aviator sunglasses and his favorite grin. He is navigating the tank perfectly into Marcus's driveway, positioning the tank right where the Mustang used to be. The tank is so massive that it occupies the entire driveway and spills out slightly. Onto the grass? This isn't a violation of any HOA rule about parking on grass, of course, since it's mostly in the driveway anyway. Jake climbs out of the tank. He and Marcus do a complicated version of a high five. They're struggling to stifle laughter, because they notice curtains fluttering in Carol's house across the street. "She's watching," Jake whispers. "Yes, I know," Marcus responds. "It'll be about 5 minutes. They'll have to wait." 3. Carol opens that front door and flies across the street in that bathrobe because it is 2 p.m. on a Friday, but whatever. Carol, face bright red, like a fire engine. "What is that?" She is screaming, pointing at the tank like Marcus doesn't know what she's talking about. That is an M47 Patton tank, Carol. It is a 1952 model. It is fully restored. You can't have that here. Actually, I can. It is a guest car. This guy, Jake here, is going to stay for the weekend. It is against the HOA bylaws that guests are not allowed to park their vehicles for more than 72 hours. Carol is literally twitching, her eye twitching back and forth. That is not a vehicle. This is a weapon. The main gun is destroyed, Jake offers helpfully. It is perfectly legal. We've got all the documentation. I don't care about your paperwork. It is a residential neighborhood. Can't have a tank. Pulling out his phone and showing off his copy of the HOA bylaws on them. Come on, Carol. Show me where I am breaking the rules. I've read those things cover to cover and back and front. Not once, but twice. There is no rule about tanks. On them, it's implicit. There is no such thing as legal unimplicit. Show me where exactly I am breaking the rules. Carol is opening and closing that mouth of hers like a fish out of water. Why? Because there ain't no rule. This is ridiculous. I'm calling for an emergency board meeting of the HOA. Knock yourselves out. We're going to enjoy our weekend. Carol runs back into that house and dials up the phone. Already? Busy, you bet that Marcus can see Carol acting up wildly from his front window. This is where the story really picks up. While Carol is literally having a meltdown, the rest of the neighborhood is having the time of their lives. Trooping up to ask for autographs on the tank, because of course the guys are good about that and offer no problem. Before you can finish reading the story, a line of people are forming for a group photo with that tank. It is like that tank is famous or something. Then, the next door guy of that ownership, Tom, shows up with a case of beer. Dude, I don't know what you did to tick off Carol, but this is the best thing that's ever happened in this neighborhood. Another neighbor, Sandra, brings me cookies. She towed my son's car last year because he parked it facing the wrong direction. This is amazing. Years ago, Carol terrorized the neighborhood. Hundreds of violation notices for the daftest reasons. Christmas. Decorations up one day after January 1st. Grass more than 3.1 instead of 3. 0 max A. Basketball hoop that was depreciating property values. Someone's dog barking. The dog was barking because Carol was in the yard measuring the fence posts a garden. Gnome because it was too whimsical too. Whimsical. The tank. The tank is now the emblem of resilience. Everyone's taking pics of it and posting on their face's Facebook page. Freedom isn't free and don't tread on me, but you can tread on Carol's authority. In his garage. He sets up his tiny camping chair and just sits back and watches the show. Jake is giving tours of the outside of the tank. Kiddie tours, because you're not going inside because it's an insurance thing. It's like he's having some kind of block party. And right next door, Carol's house is all dark, except one window, and you see Carol in it on Saturday morning. Jake's already up when he hears pounding at his door. It is 7:30 a.m. He opens it to find Carol and trio, other members of the residential HOA board sitting by his front door. Richard, Margaret, and Steve. They all look like they haven't slept in a week. We're convened for an emergency board meeting, Carol explains. In front of my house? Marcus asks, incredulous. We must discuss this situation at once, Steve asserts. Fine. Come in, Marcus relents. Would you like some coffee? They troop into his living room, scanning it as if searching for some infraction of codes within his house itself. Marcus pours coffee for all of them, but no one else takes a cup but Steve, who looks as if he'd rather be anywhere else in particular. Then Carol slaps a piece of paper. They've written an emergency bylaw modification for the HOA. Section 7, 32B. No military vehicles are allowed on the premises. Marcus reads it, and then he laughs. Carol, you can't make up bylaws after the fact. The board has the right. The board must give all homeowners at least 30 days notice prior to a vote regarding bylaws, and it must occur during a regularly scheduled meeting where there is a quorum present. This is stated in your own bylaws, Section 2.5. Richard, another member of the HOA board, clears his throat. He is actually right, Carol. We can't. Whose side are you on, Richard? On the side of not being suable? If we ignore our own bylaws, we'll be taken to court. Margaret joins the conversation. Carol, why don't we just let this weekend happen? The tank will be gone in 2 days anyway. That is not the point. The point is he's making a fool of our HOA. No way, Marcus, he says calmly. I am strictly adhering to your bylaws. You are the one who has made a fool of our bylaws by illegally towing my car. It was not illegal. Carol, it was 9 days. The bylaw states 14. Broke your own rules. I demand my $850. Carol pushes her chair back so hard it falls over. You're not getting a penny. The tank gets to stay for the full 72 hours. I have a feeling Jake might like to come back next weekend, the weekend after.
Maybe.
We'll make it a regular thing. Carol turns purplish red. You wouldn't dare. Try me. The HOA board members rapidly exchange glances. Steve actually whispers, "Give him the money, Carol." No, it's about principle. It's about the principle behind you abusing your authority, Marcus asks. Carol storms out, leaving the rest of the HOA board members behind as they apologize. For their actions, Margaret even whispers, "I'm voting to reimburse you at the next meeting. This has gone too far." Around 3 o'clock, Marcus and Jake are outside cleaning the tank because if you're going to park a tank on your driveway, it had better be spotless when 2 police cars arrive. 2 cops get out and look confused. Marcus sees the other cop, Officer Davis, who's also a vet. "Hey, Marcus," Davis says with an obviously strained grin. "We got a call about a tank." "Yeah, it's the tank. Is it street legal?" "Absolutely. Got all the paperwork inside. Main gun's been deactivated. Rubber treads on the tracks. It's fully registered with the DMV down at the Department of Historical Military Vehicles." The other cop wanders out to look at the tank and shakes his head. "Dude, this is the funniest call all year. And also, the neighbor Carol." "Yeah, Carol. She says you're threatening the neighborhood. With historical military equipment, cops, this tank hasn't moved since Friday. It's fully and properly parked on private property. Have the proper documentation and licensing for the driver." Davis is trying really hard not to laugh. "Listen, buddy. This whole thing hilarious, though I'm obliged to ask, is this an HOA dispute?" Marcus tells the whole story. The unauthorized towing, the punitive $850 fine, Carol's abuse of power. They whistled. "Yeah, let's put it this way. Not legal. Yes. I asked for a refund. She refused. That's when I called the cops." Davis looks out at the neighbors who've gathered to watch the cop visit the house. They're all having the time of their lives. They're laughing and taking pictures. And someone held up a sign, "Honk if you love the tank." Marcus says, "Davis, let me go have a word with Carol. Let you and the fine citizens know you're not breaking any laws. Tell Carol to quit calling us. Thanks, officer." They walk to the car. Through the window, Marcus sees an intense conversation taking place. Carol is gesturing to the tank. Davis shakes his head. The other cop writes something in his book. They return 5 minutes later. "We told Mrs. Henderson that you're not breaking the law and that making false reports is an illegal act. She is not happy." "I'm shocked," Marcus says matter-of-factly. Tom from the house next door comes. "Over with more beer when the cops are gone?" "Dude, Carol called the cops on your tank. It's the best day of my life." "Tomorrow, though," Marcus says. Jake's coming over with his friend and his half-track. He teases, but mostly in seriousness. Sunday morning, Marcus wakes to an email. It is from the HOA board member, Richard. "Marcus, I have called an emergency vote by email regarding your refund. Carol is outvoted 3-1. You will get a check for $850 and an additional refund for the inconvenience. The check will be ready Monday. Please accept our apologies for the situation." Marcus shows the email to Jake, making pancakes in the kitchen. "You win, man. Not yet," Marcus says. "There is one more thing." At noon, Marcus and Jake are loading the tank when they are confronted again by an indignant Carol from her home. "One last time? Finally? You're packing up." "We are," Marcus confirms. "Carol, I wanted to say thanks." She looks highly dubious. "Why?" "For reminding me why I fought for my country." He emphasizes each word. "Freedom. Property rights. The right to put a tank in my driveway when the heck I please. That is not. and I wanted to let you know that I'm announcing a candidacy for the office of HOA as president in the next election. Tom is nominating him, and he has already lined up 16 supporters. Carol, your face then turns white to the roots. What? Yep, Marcus declares firmly. I figure that this neighborhood needs some leaders with a little more respect for the rules, doesn't he? Marcus gets into the tank alongside Jake. Jake starts the engine, and that wonderful diesel growl fills the air one last time. While pulling away, there are cheers from the neighbors, waving children, and Carol standing in her driveway, looking like the world just ended, because it did. Follow-up from Marcus 3 months later. The HOA election passed, and guess what? Marcus won with a landslide election. Carol received exactly 7 votes out of 143 voting homeowners. She completely resigned from the board and left the neighborhood altogether 6 weeks later. His first order of business as HOA president is going through Carol's entire list of citizen complaints from the last 5 years. He discovered that about 60% of those were illegal, ranging from complaints filed before the complaint period or about a regulation that doesn't exist. He refunded a sum of $25,000 to 17 families in total. His second order of business, adding a regulation about requiring a citizen's appeal process before sending out a complaint, so no one gets abused by a power-high board again. His third, hosting a neighborhood block party where Jake brought his tank out. They raised $3,000 for local veteran charities. What about the Mustang? I'm actually done with its restoration. It's gorgeous. And the best thing, you can park it in my driveway whenever, and no one utters a peep. What about Carol? Last time we heard, Carol asked to become a board member of her new neighborhood and was completely rejected. When someone from the old neighborhood showed up to the meeting and gave them the entire story, and that neighbor Wars HQ family is how one handles an HOA Karen abusing their powers. You don't just go off and get angry. You go even legally, cleverly, and with a tank that weighs 25 tons. You see what worked here? Know your rights and freedoms, know your bylaws, and write everything down from that point forward. And if, by chance, you have veteran friends with military vehicles, OT. In short, if you enjoyed that one, just smash that like button, and don't forget and subscribe with Neighbor Wars HQ, where more ridiculous tales of revenge of the neighbor abound. Perhaps there's a moral here about respect and power, just as there is one about network and utility. Some interesting discussions can be had about the meaning of HOA, and though, should I make another video about how to take on your HOA within legal boundaries? Let me know. And remember, don't mess with vets. They've got connections, they've got skills, and they just might have tank access. Out. Stay strong. Be informed about your rights. And never, ever give in to Karen. Peace.